So Frank and Margarita Klein are two amazing Mishkanites who I've had the joy of teaching, but I've also, I think, more powerfully have had the joy of being their student. If you want to know anything about the history of labor unions, labor organizing, and labor rights in the city of Chicago and the country, these are the two people to talk to. It's really amazing to sit at their feet and to hear their wisdom, and I'm really excited, and I think we're all very blessed to hear from both of them today about their work and how our tradition connects this very important work.
Thank you. You're much too kind, Rabbi Stephen. Okay. Yeah, good morning, everyone, and Shabbat Shalom. I want to thank Rabbi Stephen, Rabbi Lizzie, Rabbi Ari, and the Mishkan leadership for the opportunity for us to share our thoughts on today's Parsha. So I'm going to join Asher, so congratulations, Asher, and Rabbi Lizzie on sharing with you kind of a broad view of today's Torah portion, Shoftim, that is Judges, for a number of reasons. Excuse me. Asher sort of kind of went into a part of the Parsha, kind of going from ancient times to the modern in terms of the issue of sanctuary city. So what did that mean at that time, and what sort of values, what lesson do we draw that we can apply today? Rabbi Lizzie sort of referred to a view of judges and judgment as an internal practice, kind of referring back to a Hasidic master from 3 centuries ago. And so I'm going to join them in this, and I'm going to share a broad view for several different reasons. Firstly, because it seems plain that the judgments referred to in the portion are not limited only to the portion's criminal and civil commandments, but to the entirety of the commandments in the Torah. So can you folks tell me, how many commandments, how many mitzvot are there all together in the Torah? Yeah, 613, I think, was the number that I've usually seen. So in this Torah portion, there are 40. So that leaves 573 to go to render judgments on, right? So these same judges that are referred to in the portion would be called upon to render decisions over a complaint that laborers were not paid, which is in a different Torah portion, in fact, in last week's, or that widows were not allowed to gather olives that had fallen to the ground during a harvest. So the judgments are not confined only to what we see in the portion. Secondly, on justice shall you pursue. Tzedek, tirdaf. The late Rabbi Jonathan Sachs pointed out many times that repetition in the Torah usually signifies significance. Now, justice, as used by the ancient Greeks and in modern English, is generally defined as fairness, equity, and impartiality. That is the idea of the rule of law. The Hebrew word tzedek, a key to the portion, and I think we can say it's the key due to its being repeated in a very dramatic fashion, refers to a broader vision of justice that includes concern for the treatment of the laborer, the widow, the orphan, the refugee, for how wealth is distributed, how land is cared for, and so on. And in the Jewish tradition, this is tzedakah. The rule of law and more is conveyed by the Hebrew word mishpat. And the rule of law is, of course, important, and it's part of today's parsha. But tzedek is mishpat and tzedakah together. The early mystic text, the Sefer Bahir, has the very empowering teaching that when the people of Israel act with tzedek, the Shekinah, the presence of the Lord, dwells amongst them. What's more, it suggests that tzedek is mentioned twice, because the first tzedek refers to the Shekinah, citing the prophet Isaiah's declaration that tzedek once dwelt in Jerusalem. The second tzedek is peace, shalom, which accompanies the Shekinah. Thirdly, I have a very practical reason for taking an expansive view into labor issues. Mishkan's leadership has wanted to highlight the work of Arise Chicago on labor issues like wage theft, workplace safety, and the right to organize. Last week's Torah portion included a variety of commandments pertaining to worker issues, but we didn't have services on Labor Day weekend. As Rabbi Lizzie pointed out, that well, even spiritual workers have a right to a weekend off every once in a while. So here I am setting the stage for Arise Chicago's membership director, Margarita Klein. I'm Frank Klein, so Margarita Klein, that's my wife, so what choice do I have? So our tradition gives special attention to tzedakah. To be clear, this concept differs from the modern Western understanding of charity. Tzedakah is an ethical obligation to aid the poor and do so in a way that protects their dignity and empowers the powerless to support themselves, helping them in developing their talents and skills. Attesting to its centrality, in the Talmud's Bava Batra, Rav Asi says, tzedakah is equal to all of the other mitzvot combined. I refer again to the late Rabbi Sachs, who often emphasized that Jewish religious, social, and even mystical thought has always tended towards the holistic. In keeping with the holistic view of the Torah, Mishpat itself goes beyond the simple rule of law. Mishpat must reflect the values of tzedakah. It is not enough that judges be honest. The laws also must be just. And if they are not as regards to racial and gender equality, living wages, worker safety, access to health care and housing, and more, then we have to work to change them. Sachs, in his commentary on the Koren Shalem Siddur, observes that, and I quote, the prophets saved their most stinging prose for those practicing the meticulous observance of sacrificial laws while ignoring the plight of the poor, the widow, and the orphan. The empowering aspects of our tradition have a special relevance in tzedakah, given the goal-setting mitzvah, there shall be no poor among you. I think this is supported by how the sages of the Talmud applied tzedakah and mishpat, that is, tzedek, to their own communities. As we have it in Mishkan, so let's give ourselves a little credit here, in promoting just laws to address racial equality, police reform, affordable housing, as well as doing some of the more charitable things when you think of the word, like resettling refugees and supporting asylum seekers. As Labor Day was just last week, I'd like to say a few words about the question of labor tzedek in our tradition. Talmudic scholars, who were often skilled laborers themselves, derived forms of sick leave and workman's compensation from the commandments protecting indentured service in Exodus 21. The leading North African Talmudic scholar, Rabbi Duran, wrote that employers must compensate laborers injured in their employ, and indentured service are not required to make up for days lost due to illness. In fact, the Talmud even broached the concept of fringe benefits. According to a ruling in Bava Metzia, agricultural workers could eat from the fields in which they were laboring up to 1 dinar's worth of cucumbers a day, for example. Not a bad deal if you love cucumbers. From the mitzvot on wages, poor debtors, indentured workers, and more in Deuteronomy, the Talmud derived a variety of rights for tradesmen, sailors, and other workers. The Talmud warns that employers who withhold wages are guilty of 6 violations, including theft and oppressing the poor. On the empowerment side, the Talmud recognized the guilds and trade unions to have been a part of Jewish communal life since the times of the temple. In fact, possibly the first strike in recorded history is discussed in Yoma 38a, wherein the sages recognized that when the temple's ritual bakers, a highly skilled trade at the time, withheld their labor to secure fair wages and work rules to safeguard the quality of their products, they had been right to do so. What are modern, often systemic equivalents to which we might apply the Torah and Talmudic values in our own day? Wage theft and non-living wages related to immigrant and unskilled labor and often undervalued work comes immediately to mind. But perhaps even salaried workers with salaries so low and student debts, rent, and healthcare costs so high that even well-educated professionals often have to start putting off starting families, buying homes, and even pricing the cost of cans of beans to the point of losing agency over their own lives. So it seems we have a lot of work to do. Now, I'd like to introduce my wife, Margarita, to say a few words about Arise Chicago's work to bring tzedek to the workplace.
Morning. Shabbat Shalom. Like my husband say, I'm Margarita Klein, and I would like to thank Rabbi Stephen and Rabbi Lisi for the opportunity to be with you today. I'm the director of member organizing at Arise Chicago. It's a non-for-profit founded by faith leaders in 1991. Our mission is to educate and organize immigrant workers and advocating for public and policy changes. So far, we have recovered over $9 million in stolen wages because workers were not paid the proper minimum wage, overtime, or were forced to work off the clock. Arise, along with other coalitions allied, has also successfully worked to pass 9 laws improving working conditions and protected 21 more from being repealed. Among the most recent new laws are Chicago's PTO ordinance, providing for a total of 10 paid days off, the most robust in the country. And another law providing for 5 PTO days in Cook County. At the state of Illinois level, we passed the Domestic Workers Bill of Rights. This bill recognized the people who take care of our children, our elderly, and clean our homes as employees, not as independent contractors. That is, workers who have the right to the protection of labor laws against discrimination and sexual harassment, among others. We do all this by connecting people, bringing the faith community together with workers. Beginning with Moses, all faith traditions speak out against workplace exploitation, which make this partnership organic and effective. We live in a time of idolatry, the idolatry of wealth, which places profit over people, the idolatry of greed, which places material gains over the planet, the idolatry of selfishness, when the bottom line matters more than the people who makes that bottom line possible, because some employers consider their workers disposable. In God's economy, no one is disposable. No one should be exploited or have their wages stolen. In God's economy, people and the planet must come before profit. With the faith community, Arise is advancing God's economy, and workers are showing courage and determination to end the exploitations they have endured for decades. Here are just 2 examples. The workers at El Milagro tortilla plant and the workers at Portillo's production plants. Probably some of you are familiar with them. Both build knowledge and a strategy with Arise, gaining $5,000 and $4,000 increases in wages, respectively. They put an end to several unlawful practices, improved workplace safety, and gained new respect on the job and admiration in the community. In both campaigns, the faith community hosted weekly workers' meetings, met with workers, wrote letters to management, prayed at press conferences and rallies, and supported Arise to get it done. You see, the presence of the faith community tells workers that there are moral issues here and that their struggle is the righteous one. This faith presence inspires workers to fight for their humanity and their dignity. That is the essence of our work at Arise. We are honoring the humanity and dignity of every worker. It's the faith community that makes the work of Arise Chicago possible. And please know, we are not done yet. The struggle continues. We hope that you will become a part of it with us. Thank you.